some will say you save the best for last, and that's probably how a lot of us feel. We have Dr. Debbie Rothe, a technology leader at Dow, and Debbie, so glad to have you with us. Debbie is a global leader for the environmental business at Dow, and she's a disruptive change champion leading Industry 4.0 for her business. And it's a real honor to have you here. Dying to see your presentation on change management to drive digital transformation. So thank you very much for taking the time to sharing your insights and expertise with us, Debbie.
Thank you, Jose. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to bring it all home here at the end of the session today. So thank you. Really excited to share the story about change management to drive digital transformation. This is going to be a story to share with you some bits of wisdom on how you can drive a successful digital transformation. I think that many of us who are passionate about innovation, Industry 4.0 initiatives, digitization, know that you need to be relentless. You need to be relentless to break the status quo, because you're going somewhere where people haven't gone before. If it was easy, we'd already just automatically be there. It would just be a natural evolution. But the innovation is about jumping that curve, jumping out of that fishbowl into a new environment where we are learning as we go and new experiences. What if I told you that all of that amazing technology and innovation, those projects, those ideas for making things better, had only a 15% likelihood of project success? It makes so much sense to you, and you are so excited to do it, and yes, we should definitely do it, and we've shown that there's going to be value, but it's most likely not going to succeed. Now you may look at that and say, well, that's not true, we've been successful. Then I imagine you've been instituting some change management principles. So I have good news. We can move that 15% likelihood up to 93%. That's what I'm going to share with you are the tips, the tools that are available to increase the likelihood of your project being successful. I'm going to share with you information about why it might not be successful, even though it's obvious to you, and then what you can do to make that successful. This story is about my team. I'm global leader for our environmental business at Dow. Our environmental business manufactures clean water and clean air for the environment. This story is largely about my team. They are innovators, possibility thinkers. They have done amazing things. They're early adopters. This is a story about how we work together to bring successful change across our business. We're the analytical team, which is a step removed from our assets. We're a resource to help those experts run. We have our own expertise, but we're not sitting right out in the plant every day all the time like our engineering experts and our operation experts are. So what we look at, this is our story, written on a typewriter, our digital transformation story. When we want to help our plants make decisions about what's happening, the data sometimes looks like this to us. You can collect somewhere on order of 1,000 different data points in a single day at one of our plants, one of our environmental plants that does wastewater treatment. Online analytical, a lot of other information that's being collected. Now, multiply this by the number of assets that we operate around the globe. We're the Global Expertise Center. You have all of this data, all these data points. What do we really need to be looking at? What is really critical to help solve problems that we need to be monitoring? Our project is about implementing these focused enterprise manufacturing intelligence dashboards. It's essentially a visible way to look at that data. So instead of a lot of data points and graphs and plots, what if we took only the really critical data that we needed to monitor our situation and then color-coded it so that we knew when it was in in good control and when it was drifting out of control. So that's what this project is about. It's about taking that data, finding what we really need to be looking at from our expertise perspective to help problem solve and make decisions, and do this across the globe. So it seems like it makes sense. It's logical. Let's go do it. That was essentially our first change management strategy. Hey, we're the analytical team. There's this amazing new tool out there that will help us help you. We are in the hot air balloon. We're saying jump on board. This is where we're going. This is where we're going regardless of what's happening around us. So jump on board or be dragged. That was our attitude about it because it made so much sense to us that we should be doing this. This is going to make our lives easier. It's going to help us distinguish the signal from the noise. Some of the other data that's being collected is important, but it might not be critical for some of the urgent situations that arise. So what do you think the success rate was? This is where I love to quote Star Wars from Han Solo. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll get this. If not, just pass by it. But never tell me the odds. Don't tell me the odds that it's only a 15% success rate, because our first time was 100% success rate. This is our first dashboard that we started back in 2016 at one of our sites. We sat down with the plant engineers. We took a look at what their operations looked like, what was the data they had available, what did they want to build in this dashboard. So we partnered with them to make this successful. And it's beautiful. We have this wonderful aerial overview of the facility. We have labeled the influence streams from various sources. We even have, some of our typical problems that we expect to see coming into the plant outlined right there, so that if one of those turns red, the engineer can pick up the phone, call the sender plant production leader and ask what's going on. Are they aware of what's happening? Are they not aware? What's changed? Instead of trying to guess what's going on wrong, not noticing from that mess of data what's happening until it's too late. Now we can be far more proactive. So we were very much built our self-esteem up with this and said, let's go. This is our first success story. Let's take this across the globe. No one's going to stop us. Well, in hindsight, we had a lot of contributing factors to success. We did sit down and discuss this for over a year. This is driven by our experts in our data analytics team. We were having conversations with the plant, with our tech center experts, to really understand what it was that they needed that would meet their needs. But their culture at the plant of being an early adopter was already in place. We had great engagement. We had a great relationship between implementation team and the plant. So the culture was really on our side. So everything was, the wind was blowing in our favor with this. Our ability to influence was very high. Plus, this particular tool filled a gap for the plant. This was something that was going to help make their lives easier. It was there was a clear benefit to investing this time to implement this and make it work. But this was hindsight. You know what hindsight is like. Hindsight is always 20/20. It's always obvious when you look at it in retrospect. But moving forward, we thought, okay, this is the right thing to do. What every new initiative needs is a persuasively colorful slide. We built that. Isn't it beautiful? Don't you want this? Look at this. Got the rainbow colors in there. We were talking about how this is going to help with productivity. We needed a vision for success. It's a collaborative tool. This is what's going to happen with this tool. The plant will get this notification. We'll have discussion. We'll collaborate. It's amazing. We'll help determine appropriate actions. And then that knowledge that you gain from that experience can be integrated back into the tool. There are comments in there. We can learn from this. It's a great training tool. We can shift from a reactive mode to a proactive mode, and it can be something that your global experts can be looking at, so the local experts can really focus on operating their asset. We can prevent unplanned situations. We can prevent partner losses. We can prevent losing money. And we're going to work together on this. We're bringing resources. We're not dumping this on you to do. We've got a great plan. We even sat down and made some projections in terms of monetary benefit as well, and what we anticipated to capture. So we took this moving forward, and so let's see if we can project, what do you think our success rate was moving to the next plant? Well, it continued to be successful, so we had no reason to stop our approach or change what we were doing, because if it's working, you just keep going. We implemented a number of dashboards at individual sites. Some of our sites wanted to look at a specific part of their process. Some wanted a couple different ones. And so as we moved across the globe, you can see where our dashboard numbers, our running total really increased. We had several in place at each site. So for a couple of years, blindly optimistic, very excited about what we were able to achieve. And then one day, we went to a particular plant. Didn't occur to us that this could happen. We hit a brick wall. It was a very short meeting, because we showed the persuasively colorful slide, went through the value case for it, and they said, no, we like our tools. We don't see the value. We're really busy, thanks, but no thanks. And it was really funny, because leading this effort up to this point, I didn't have a backup of understanding or what was my plan B for this. And so we said, oh, okay, well, that's okay. We'll come back to you, and we're just going to keep going. But it kind of knocked us off balance for a bit, but we continued to go. So then we went across to other sites, continued to increase our success rate, which was absolutely amazing. We then built a new tool that we had so many dashboards at this point that we wanted to create a dashboard of all of our dashboards, because these were in place across the globe. We wanted to see how we were operating. And not only do we implement a dashboard of dashboards, we made it accessible on a mobile device as well. So this actually worked in our favor, because now on the dashboard of dashboards, you can see who has a dashboard and who doesn't have a dashboard in place. So this helped increase that desire. People wanted to be on the dashboard of dashboards and called us up and said, hey, how can I get in on this? So as we went, we increased the number there. But really, then we thought, well, what does our engagement look like? Because if we define success as just creating these dashboards, putting them into place, and then walking away, are they being used? Because that's really the goal, is that they're being used. It's not just checking a box, because we really see the value in this. They need to be used, otherwise it's pointless. When we looked at our data, we had a tool that allowed us to track our how many times it got touched. So on this plot, we're seeing 3 different dashboards, one that had been in place for a while, the one at the top. That was actually our first one that I showed the example of. Then you have dashboards that were being created, still in that transition state at the very bottom, and the one that we had in place and had handed off and was being taken care of by the plant. So you notice here the high touches are the darker colors, the lighter colors are the lower touches, or less number of times that it was opened. And our dashboard that had been in place for years, that we had the great engagement to start with, fantastic. People are using it. They're opening it every day, multiple times a day. It's being opened by the weekend staff to go in and check. Comments are being made. High utilization rate, great value. It has been used multiple times to help prevent excursions and other scenarios. Fabulous. Some of the other dashboards that had been put in place were not being used as much. And in some of the cases, when I was excited about the high number of touches that were showing up, how many times it had been opened, it was my team. It was everybody on my team and wasn't being used by the site experts as much. So this point in time made us take a step back and look at our culture. Why was it that some of the dashboards were being used and some of them were not being used? And so this is the Rogers adoption of ideas curve. This has been published for decades. This is not anything new. But in basically, in any population, you're going to have a distribution of individuals. And if we were all in a room together and we weren't in the middle of a pandemic and it would be okay to touch hands, I would do this demonstration. I would tell somebody, put up your hand, and I would come up to them with my hand and I would apply pressure. And I almost guarantee you 100% of the time, that person that I'm applying pressure to is going to push back. Typically the case, as long as somebody's not overthinking it or really afraid, anybody with self-esteem is going to push back when you're applying pressure. So looking at this curve, you're going to have a percentage of the population that is always going to, their default answer is going to be no. The new ideas out there are going to have a reason, no, because, and these are all my reasons why I don't want that new technology. You then have the middle of the curve, which is more common, where maybe the analysis paralysis. Some of those folks are the late majority where they're yes, but, and they're looking for other reasons, the skeptics. Why won't this work? Then the early majority folks, they're open, but they're very, very practical and a bit risk averse as well. They will implement a change as long as they understand it fully and know that there's low risk. And they want to know more. These are your questions. Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. The people at the front end of that curve, your innovators, your early adopters, they are super excited. They are leading the change. They are in the hot air balloon. They are pulling the wagon. They're enthusiastic. They want to be first. They are willing to take risk. They will look at a new idea and they'll say, yes, we can do that, and they will make it bigger. So looking at this curve and then thinking about who was on our team and who we were trying to work with to implement these changes was very different. So our implementation team was all the way over to the one side where we were leading the charge. We could see very clearly the benefit of this and wanted to make it work. When you think about the people we're implementing with, we're very much focused on their daily tasks, and rightfully so. They had a different focus, and anytime you implement something new, it means more work. So as you're going through the transition state, they're trying to keep up on the daily operation, plus implement this new change. And so we had to re-examine our approach of jump on the wagon or be dragged to move beyond this, what they call the tipping point. Usually in a population, if you get about 16% of your people on board with the change, visible and leading it, the rest of the organization will gradually move in that direction as well. But we don't necessarily have the time to wait for everybody to decide that it's a good idea. So we need a strategy, we need a plan. And that is what we did. This is our plot twist. Our team became trained in change management principles from a company called ProSci. This is a third party that we work with at Dow. We had a 3-day training for folks on our implementation team so that we could understand what it is we could do to be more effective, to implement these changes more rapidly so we could appreciate the benefit of it across our assets. So I did technology for 15 years of my career. And if you're a technology person and you have your PhD and you went to grad school, you're highly, deeply involved in that. I have some bad news, my opinion. The technology is the easy part. The people are complex. And I know technology isn't always easy and you can hit roadblocks, but let me just say it's straightforward. Technology is straightforward. The people side is complex because people are multivariate, time dependent. There are many factors. So what ProSci approaches this says, hey, we understand that in any project, you have that technical side where you're designing, you're developing, you have to deliver. And then that people side where you're getting people to embrace, adopt, and then use. You need both of those to be successful, to realize successful outcomes. Here it also shows that current state, transition state, future state. It's really critical that you fully understand what each of those states look like in order to bring a group of people along with you to get that successful outcome. Part of the training talks about the building blocks for successful change. If you want to be successful, you need to build awareness of the need for the change. You need to help people build desire to participate and support the change. They need to know how to do it, they need to have the ability to do it, and they need to have the reinforcement to sustain that change or improvement. When we got to this part of the training, our team looked at each other, we kind of laughed, and we said, we are blinded by our desire. Our awareness of the benefit of this, our desire to implement this tool is so high, it's all we see. It's hard to realize that anybody would not want it. And so that is something that we were now able, because we had that awareness that we were blinded by our desire of what we needed to do to change our approach to increase that engagement and be successful. So it was focusing on that awareness and desire. For most of the changes with Industry 4.0, yes, people are learning new tools. People are needing to have training sessions. That is relatively straightforward to do the technical side, but building that awareness and desire can be very complicated. ProSize model talks about the project management side, and that you need to have somebody leading this. This is a separate person. The project is important to have the resources. This person works on the timing and dates, what it needs to be delivered, what's the scope of it, how are we going to do this. They're making those decisions on the technical side of moving things forward. Additionally, you need somebody leading the change management side. These need to be two separate roles. This person is focused on active and visible participation, making sure that the messaging is robust, that direct communication with the teams, the stakeholders, the sponsors, looking at how to build a coalition either across the organization or across the company. This person's we're focused on those actions. And the key for that successful change is the leadership and sponsorship. This is the difference between a successful project and a non-successful project, is that active and visible sponsorship from a leader who can look at the project meeting objectives, finishing the project on time and on budget, and realizing that return on investment. So that direct correlation to project success is what I'm going to show you. Okay, how do you do that? How do you get an active and visible leader or sponsor? It needs to be somebody who has enough influence. And it's very simple. They need to be active and they need to be visible. What specific examples are making sure they're present. If you are having a town hall discussion or a road show or some sort of presentation about the change, making sure that that active and visible sponsor is there. They don't have to be there the whole time, but if they can show up and say, hey, I really support this effort, I think it's great, keep going. They also are involved with communicating about the change, sending messaging that this is where we're going, this is what we need to do, face-to-face, video, whatever it takes, email messaging to make sure that that is consistent and people know that it's not just another flavor of the month, that it is something that we really want to implement. It's great if they can talk to employees. Obviously, pre-COVID, walking the plant floor, the lab floor, looking at what people are using, asking questions. And then also, if there's somebody that can use the tool as well, say, hey, I was opening up the dashboard tool and you noticed this was happening. It shows that they're actively using the tool, they're embracing the change, and that's visible to the people who are really in the trenches doing the work to make it successful. One of the other things I wanted to share is who's the preferred sender of the change messages. At the beginning, I showed you the lovely, colorfully persuasive slide that we were taking across all of our different assets to show them. And when we took this training, if you're one of those people who loves to send those messages and talk about how amazing the change is, I've got some bad news. If you are the change management team leader or the project team leader, no one cares what you have to say about the change. Well, it's not zero, but it's low. the number of people that care about that is very low. So whether it's a business message of what's happening in business or the personal message, which is really the personal message is, this is how we expect you to do your job differently. We expect you to come in the morning, open up the dashboard, see what's going on, make the comments, make the changes, and save that so it's incorporated into the tool. As the project team leader, as the change team leader, they don't care. This needs to come from the employee supervisor. So that was our other aha, that we needed to do more than just engage the people using the tools. We had to talk to the leaders. We had to make sure the leaders support it. Most of the time before we come in, we're making sure that the leaders support it. They might say, yep, go ahead. But the leaders need to clearly understand their role in making this successful. And that is the most important. When it involves the person's work and what they're doing day to day, it needs to come from the supervisor. Okay, so now we had raised our awareness and desire of what was necessary to be successful. So how can we cascade this information across the organization? One of the tools, one of the things that you build in this training is a sponsorship cascade. So thinking about who needs to really send those messages to the folks involved with the change. This is a graphic that essentially shows when we first started the project, the blue denotes the change ready. So we, as a project team, we were sitting under the technology experts there. So the leaders of the technology experts knew the value of this. Our supervisors wanted us doing it. That's why we were focused on it. We had their sponsorship. We knew they wanted us doing it. What we needed to do is overcome the gap of awareness and desire on the other side of our organization, where we had the same executive sponsor for Manufacturing 4.0, but we needed to build the awareness and desire in those individuals as well. So we were concerned about cultural differences because we have different challenges and having that high resistance. So that's why we focused on that sponsorship visibility. And how high up you go in the organization depends on how influential, how high the resistance is. We focused on our technology expert leaders who had great relationship with our plant leaders. And so we didn't have to go up even higher to get them on board. The communication from our technology experts to our team made its way over to the plant leaders. Recognition tool was used, and then that helped increase their awareness and desire. And they cascade it down through their team as well. So this really helped us, the simple thing, and it's very easy to do. If you are somebody that goes to your leader and says, I need you to send an email, you're going to be more likely to be successful if you've already crafted the email and say, would you please send this email? All the times I've did that, I've never had anybody say no, nor have I had anybody change the messaging in the email. So there is work as a change leader, as the change leader on the project, that you're going and making it easy for these other leaders to send that messaging to their team. So what happened as a result of that? How are we changing our strategy? Well, we're still working on this. Now, post-COVID, we have really focused our efforts on what is absolutely critical, but we are still moving forward with this implementation. Obviously, we've built the case for the importance is even greater with this situation that we've experienced with the pandemic. But I think the first aha was separating the project leader and the change leader. Those are two separate areas, and unless you have somebody who really has the time to take on both of that, separating that out is best and will help your project be successful. The other key thing that we did was I talked about the active and visible sponsorship, email messaging. It was very simple. We have meetings with all of our plant leaders where we can bring in individuals who can do the end user testimonials. So somebody who has credibility in the plant who says, I use this tool, this is how great it is, this is how it's helped me, this is what we've avoided, that credibility has helped increase the awareness and desire that when we go to those plant leaders and ask for help, they want to help because they do see the value and benefit in it. Also, anytime your team has has a little milestone, celebrating that success, making sure that their leaders know that we're moving forward, we hit a milestone, we've been using this tool, it's been helping us be reliable, it's been helping us understand how to operate better. That goes a long way as well. So these are the key things that we focused on. And so to recap this, when you're working on any of these changes, you want to clearly assess the change. Why are we changing? Building that case so that helps enhance that awareness and desire. What are we doing? Who is going to be involved in this? Because then you can focus your messaging. You can focus your content on the right audience. Having a clear awareness also of the different states, your current state, where we are today, where we want to go, and appreciation for what that transition state looks like. Sometimes in transition states, you're doing two things at once, which can be challenging and requires more energy than obviously just staying in the current state. So that future state needs to be really clear, the value, the benefit, the what's in it for the individual that's adopting the change. ProSci has amazing tools. There's a website, you can go out and take a look at that website to analyze risk and readiness of the organization you're working with, how you build that active and visible sponsorship, and identifying then based on your current environment within each individual organization, who should be sending and receiving those messages. So as I said, majority of our team are now certified ProSci practitioners of change management, so that we are all aware of these tools and how we can now move forward and be successful. My closing message I want to leave you with is that if it was easy, somebody would have already done it. Anything that is new, you need to be relentless. And if it's something that you believe in, continue to be courageous, continue to be patient. It takes time, repeated attempts. It's okay to fail. It's just another step forward. So with this, I would like to thank you for attending the session, and I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Very good, Debbie. That's terrific. And we had questions coming through here. Let me pop up the question panel. I will ask you to stop sharing your presentation so that the audience can see you on the screen. Terrific. Terrific practical approaches to digital transformation and change. One of the first questions that have come up here have to do with the fear of change. And there is in that and fear of failure, as a matter of fact. And just curious about your perspectives on that, and maybe ways that we can overcome that fear of failure.
When I look at organizations that are afraid of failure, that all comes down to culture. A big part of that is the leader and what has happened in the past. So why are people afraid of failing? I think in some cases it depends at what's at stake. In some situations, we know we can't afford to fail when it involves, the safety and lives of individuals. How can we de-risk things? What are some things that can be done to help lower the risk? In general, some of the ideas that we tried, so you could say to a certain extent, we had successes, but we failed. We failed, getting engagement in some of the sites at first. We failed. But I think that when you have a clear vision of success is this big picture over here, this is what success is, how you get there, you need to be open to the fact that not everything you're going to do is going to work the first time. But I do think that if you are a leader of a team, I would say you need to be careful of what you reward. If you only reward success and final completion and put a bow on it and it's done and it's perfect, if you're only rewarding perfection, no one's going to want to take risks. But if you are rewarding steps moving in the right direction, if you're rewarding people for trying something even if it didn't work, I think you need to be be very mindful about what you're rewarding to build that culture of healthy risk and taking those chances and not seeing it as a failure, but as a learning experience.
Very well. And for those who are, of course, with the pandemic, we have a major platform for change that's being thrust upon us. For those who are starting their change management and leadership as part of this major disruption, what are some of the best advice you'd give to them to start on the right foot, to have a good start for their change initiative?
I think that one of the best things you can do is focus on the why of the change. The why of the change, why, building that case for what is you're wanting to change and why. The clearer your vision can be, the clearer the expectations are in terms of, because what people are thinking about is you're asking people to implement a change. Comfort zone is really great because status quo, I can maintain that. How can you build an extreme distaste for their comfort zone to show them this was what is possible? You might be comfortable now, but things will be even better here. So building that case of what's in it for me is really important. So focusing on the value for the individual to embrace that change. And if you build a crystal clear vision, they'll draw them toward it. That will help. Are you still there?
I apologize. I had my microphone was muted. So this next question, this next question is from Laura Pascali and follows along the previous one. And the question is, how can you be transparent, but at the same time inform step by step in order to avoid panic? So talk a little bit about communications there, about transparency, authenticity, but at the same time, managing the potential impact of some of the messages.
Yeah, so panic, that is obviously something that you want to avoid. And in some of these cases with the changes, I guess if people are fearful of the changes because they think, what I often hear with a lot of the automation digitization is concern over losing their job. That is, I don't have a magic answer for that. When I've seen some of these changes come into place, it's so awareness and desire. One of the things I want to mention, building that awareness and desire. ProSci defines desire as the willingness to go along with the change. It doesn't need to be their desire if it's their leader's desire and their leader has the ability to influence that. I do believe that if you know for a fact that something is going to be changing, I think communicating that clearly when you can is important. Avoiding the panic, what I've tried to do with my folks, if there's any messaging that may cause panic, is talk them through some of those worst case scenarios. So what's the worst case scenario? And then what are we going to do about it if the worst case scenario, like what is the hang up with that? I do fully believe that being open and honest and authentic is very important. Otherwise you will lose that credibility. I mean, we talking about that in the previous talk, that trust is so important. And you don't want to break that trust with people. If you know for a fact that something is coming and you can at all share that, I mean, I think that is important to build that trust so that because the next time you come with a new change, initiative, or idea, people are going to be suspicious. So I think talking through that and understanding what is the cause of the panic and what are people really afraid of, or what rumors are there, to have that open dialogue is important.
Yeah, that's a great summary there. I think that and you have to establish that trust on an authenticity and openness on an ongoing basis. because if you try to do that only when a crisis hits, it may be a little too late, because at that point, people are hypersensitive, and then if you change your mode of operation at that on top of it, it may not work out very well. So
yes,
that consistency is
right.
key. Yeah. So another question here is that you talk about your team, great picture of the team there, and it seems to be like a group of real innovators in the organization. So how did that happen? How the impression is that in the larger organization, the level of innovation is not reflective of the level that you have in your team. So was that about your recruiting? It's about the culture that you establish at the departmental level early on. Tell us a little bit about how you built a team of innovators.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. It's a story. I love to tell the story about my team. I have not hired a whole lot of them that are there. They've been in the group for a while. Some of them, of course, they have brought in new people. But what it's really been about is when I became a leader, I focused. I knew I have a passion for innovation and trying new things. So I focused everything on how to be a leader that could drive that in the culture. I focused on our culture. And my first step with my team when I came in is really to meet them where they are and understand what's stressing them, because there's no way that I can take them through this huge transformation and what I want to do until I really understand them and I understand their challenges and their stressors. So we started on a cultural journey 5 years ago, looking at what is it that you need in your job? What is it that you need to be more effective? What is it that you want to do? We focused a lot on reducing noise. We canceled a ton of meetings. We implemented flexibility. We looked for ways. We understood each other's social styles. Well, what is it that you need to be most effective? And that helped that helped build trust. You need trust to have innovation, because as the question was, well, how people are afraid of failing. If you've got the right culture, you've got a culture of trust, people aren't going to be afraid to fail. So we focused to grow and learn as a team and transform our culture to be innovative and adaptive. And we also look at each other as, this is a team of equals. This isn't a command and control organization. And so that was something that, and it's a constant journey, because we need to be rewarding the behaviors of people taking risk, even though it doesn't always work the first time. So we had some innovation days, lots of steps to move in that direction. I think the best thing to do is keep listening to your team and have them, they own this journey. This is their journey. This is their team. These are their successes.
That's great. What about the next question here is a little bit more about the inside and outside view on innovation related to the disruption that has been created by the pandemic. Do you think that just is concerned, the pandemic has been a positive or a negative event when it comes to innovation?
I think that what the pandemic has done has really, when you think of it as a change, increased the awareness and desire for these digital tools. A great example with one of the biggest changes that I've seen with our use of, right now, these webinars. When we would have our global meetings with our team, a bunch of people would sit in the conference room. There was no video camera on. You're talking to your device. You're not seeing a person. You've got people across the globe you're talking to. That changed in the matter of weeks in terms of people are putting on their video camera. We're seeing each other. We're communicating differently. We've become very well versed in using some of our tools for communication. Our communication style had to change. A part of it is good because it increases that visibility out of necessity. We realized that if you're somewhere where you can walk across the hallway and talk to somebody, that's great, but then your colleagues across the globe don't have that same benefit, but now we do. So I feel like our communication has now become a level playing field, essentially. And I've seen our ideas and some of our innovation ideas really increase as a result of it. So from that perspective, I see the positive results from this.
Well, it's a great way of wrapping this up. It's an optimistic view in a time of great challenges. But I think that I think to be innovators, you have to be an optimist at heart, and you look towards a better future, and we create that better future with innovation. And I have to thank you as a great leader of business transformation, operational excellence, and innovation for taking the time to come here, share your journey with us. I know there's a lot of depth about the things that you talked about. You did a great job of giving us the overall picture and the really great insights on how we can all become better innovators and better change leaders. So thank you so much for doing that for us.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the conclusion of Oil and Gas Live. We had fantastic speakers. We had a wonderful audience globally asking very insightful questions, and we very much appreciate all your engagement. After this session, we still are engaging on our LinkedIn posts, and you can go in there, make comments, questions about any of the several sessions that we have had. We're very, very grateful for you to have joined us. Remember that on August 25th through August 27th, we're going to have a deep dive on cultural transformation, and the Business Transformation Operational Excellence Summit Digital Conference on Culture and Transformation will be taking place August 25th through August 27th. Please make sure you register for that. And for those of you who are registered for this session, remember, next week sometime, you will be receiving an email with the link for all of the session recordings. So you should be able to access those sessions at your leisure. On behalf of the entire team at Proqis Digital, I would like to thank you once more for being with us. I hope you have a great day, great rest of your week, and we'll see you on August 25th. Take care, everyone.